Hi again, it's Michelle. Welcome back. I've been trying to stay out of this and all of the kind of affiliated conflicts, and I told myself that I was doing so out of maturity or out of some attempt to be a little bit less petty, when in all honesty I've been avoiding talking about this for another reason that I didn't want to even acknowledge myself, which is that I was scared of the repercussions when it came to criticizing the actions or hypocrisy of a larger channel than my own. And it's not right to let yourself be intimidated like this. I'm not just here to try to be a skeptic or to try to peddle a certain political argument. I genuinely want to be a good person, and the basis for everything I do is morality and trying to make the world a better place and trying to become a better person myself. And I understand that the anti-social justice or anti-feminist community isn't necessarily a community. I kind of consider grouping us all together as a community the same thing as thinking that atheists are all their own community. While on the internet they kind of have cultivated a community, you're really only kind of grouped together and you're really only affiliated because of your lack of something, because of your lack of being a feminist, because of your lack of subscribing to religion. So it's kind of contradictory to even consider ourselves a group. However, because everyone who does not ascribe to the progressive Marxist bastardization of feminism that is running rampant in our schools and on the internet and in tabloids today is considered to be on an opposing team, we kind of have been pitted against the feminists in that we are a community. Even though it's not right, people are always going to pick out any kind of hypocritical or nasty or childish behavior and try to use that to represent the entire group. I feel like it's my job to analyze things the way I see them, and when somebody's doing something really wrong, they deserve to be criticized for it. And I also want to say that I don't want to influence anybody's opinion. I'm solely speaking my own because I have to get this out. I have to get this out of my system, and I don't care if you disagree with me. That's absolutely all right with me. I would prefer if, as opposed to clicking away, you actually would contribute and respectfully and as rationally as possible articulate why you disagree with me. I will gladly have a dialogue with you, but I'm not here to change your opinion. I don't expect everybody who watches this or subscribes to me or anything like that to automatically agree with everything I say. That's absurd. It's patronizing, and I don't want to do that to people, and I don't want people to patronize me by attempting to agree with everything I say just because I have a platform. I'm just a person. My opinions are just as valid as anyone else's, no more, no less, but no more. I owe June Lapine, Shoe on Head, a lot, and I am immensely grateful for her. It was pretty much her channel and her daring to speak out against feminism that encouraged me several years ago to not be ashamed of my political beliefs, because I was very much on the verge of being intimidated into silence by social justice and any kind of like Marxist Alinskyite propaganda. I almost shut up, and I was starting to believe the garbage propaganda that is so divisive that's being peddled right now. However, the increase in egotistical and vindictive and hypocritical behavior from both Shoe on Head and Armored Skeptic is something that I cannot ignore, and it deserves to be denounced by other people in the anti-SJW community. First of all, I have to point out the problem with deleting tweets. You have every right to delete a tweet that you make. That's how social media works. That's one of the mechanisms of it. And it's not inherently damning to delete a tweet that you make. When you delete a tweet immediately after creating it, though, that's making a statement. That's betraying something about you. Either you are making a mistake now by deleting the tweet, which you may see later if you analyze it at a later date, or you made a mistake by tweeting what you did. If you turn around and delete it immediately, not after having changed your ideology or your perspective at all, after, weeks or months or whatever. Most of the time when this happens, unless it's because of a typo or some sort of misinformation, people delete the tweets that they have just tweeted because they tweeted out of emotion, as opposed to based on rational, logical thought. And I myself have done this. I'm not in any way trying to act as if I am above criticism. When Bering's YouTube channel was taken down for the copyright strike, many fellow YouTubers were really mad at him because they had warned him time and again that he was putting himself in a very vulnerable position and he was setting himself up to be censored. He was taking an unnecessary risk that people who admired him and cared about him didn't want him to take. However, Armored Skeptic did not do this. He spent the entire day gleefully, and yes, I do genuinely believe it was gleefully, arguing with all of Bering's fans who were trying to spin it in some way to make Bering the victim, which is fine. You have every right to do that, of course, especially if the person was in the wrong that everybody's defending. Who wouldn't be irked by that? But somebody called him out for something he said. And what he tweeted was something to the effect of, how else were they supposed to get the video taken down? Because the copyright claim was placed by the people whose intellectual property the bear is that Bering was using as his avatar for the longest time. When somebody said they didn't have to do a copyright claim, they could have spoken to him about it first, and he responded with that. How else were they supposed to get it taken down? Somebody responded to him immediately, many somebodies, including myself, and this person said, wow, so much for being a skeptic. And immediately he deleted that tweet because it was damning. And when you are an internet celebrity, or anyone, it doesn't matter if you're popular or not, quite frankly, if you are going to be posting things on social media, especially as an adult, as much as he was doing that day, and then turning around and deleting things immediately, you are not acting rational. You are not acting maturely. You are acting out of insecurity and anger. And in his case, he was absolutely acting out of insecurity and vindictiveness. You're not making yourself look very good when you claim to be a skeptic and you claim to be cool and detached and logical. But then when somebody that you've hated inexplicably for the longest time goes down, you're doing nothing but defending everybody who opposes him. I'm not agreeing with what Bering did. I think he was in the wrong there, but that doesn't make what Skeptic did in response correct. Another thing that occurred during this same time period was someone I really admired. Her internet name is Liberal Lunacy. She called Skeptic a douche because, by many people's opinions, he was being a douche. And I don't condone that. Shannon is very, very crass and blunt and calls it like she sees it. Whether or not she was justified in calling him a douche for bickering with all of Bering's fanboys, he turned around and said something, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because he deleted the tweet immediately after tweeting it because everybody's like, are you kidding? You can't be serious. So Shannon has Charcot-Marie-Tooth, which is a degenerative musculature disease, and she can't get around her house without a wheelchair and without a stair lift. Armored Skeptic is acting as if he paid for it in its entirety. He was trying to guilt her because he's wealthier than her and donated to her. And in his mind, if you donate money to somebody's cause, they have no right to criticize you anymore, or they should be in your corner on your team for the rest of eternity, which is unbelievably hypocritical and egotistical. Just absolutely inexcusable. I was just blown away by this, and mostly I was upset about Shoe on Head because I almost idolized her. I really, really admired her and was so inspired to see someone so genuine and kind and coming from a place of irreverence and fun, but also from compassion, you know, who was not afraid to speak out against all of this propaganda that's shoved down our throats day after day, hour after hour. Not only was she not ignoring what he was saying, which would have been one thing, but she was defending him. Every time he would delete a tweet, even Skeptic himself would see that what he had said was unreasonable, and he would delete it immediately to keep these things that he had written and hit the button to tweet out from damaging his reputation any further. Somebody said, how do you feel about your boyfriend mocking a disabled person and trying to guilt her into silence because she dared to disagree with him or dislike him after what he's done? And she said, it was bad timing. I'm sorry, when is it a good time to guilt somebody into silence because you donated to a charity that they set up that you were under no obligation to donate to? When would be a good time for that? Unless your mom just died, unless your entire family was just kidnapped by ISIS and they're sending you their earlobes in the mail. I'm sorry. When is good timing to treat someone like that? When you were under no obligation to donate to them? When? You are the opposite of a skeptic. You are a blatant hypocrite, and I have zero respect for you. Part of me thought, maybe Shu really is as smug and egotistical as him. Maybe she is, and if so, so be it. Whatever, that's life. People are how they are, and they're under no obligation to be decent people. But then I also thought maybe she's just so enamored by him that she's got love goggles on, that she cannot see his flaws past how much she adores him, which in my case would be even worse, in my opinion. And let me just put it out there. I did when he did this, and he did it again recently because I'm so furious about this situation. If my fiance, who I absolutely adore, who is my best friend, who I think is God's gift to me for surviving and persevering and not killing myself when I was suicidal in middle and high school, if he ever said anything to someone like what skeptics said to Shannon, we would be done in a heartbeat. And I would be horrified that I had been such a terrible judge of character. And I would probably not get into any relationships for a long time because I would be really, really frightened at how badly I had judged whether someone was a decent human being or not. So while this shocked and infuriated me, I didn't really dislike Shoe-on-Head, of course. I was kind of indifferent at this point, and of course I unsubscribed from all of Skeptic's channels because clearly he's only a skeptic when it makes him look cool and detached, and when he's not discussing anybody that he just can't stand or who dares to criticize him. I should know better than to expect people to be good people, you know, by my standards, just because I really idolize them. I had that problem a lot when I was young, and I was let down by a lot of people, and made me very depressed and very distrustful. And it's kind of the same thing that I learned from Milo Yiannopoulos. You don't put somebody up on a pedestal. You have to always be very, very cautious, and you have to respect yourself and the people you admire enough to be critical of their actions and their decisions. Nobody's perfect. We're all people, and nobody is above criticism. Nobody's beyond reproach. The next thing that occurred that really puzzled me, because it didn't seem at all consistent with June's character as she has portrayed herself and shown herself for so long, happened a little while later, maybe a few weeks, I'm not sure how long, and it involved a couple other YouTubers, Some Dumb American, Mara Jane, and Michael Rowlands. Some Dumb American and Mara Jane are kind of in the anti-SJW community, where Michael Rowlands he's basically like the dirty Sanchez of the body of feminism. I'm not sure how else to articulate it. Just everything about his like pubish hair and his face just reminds me of unsanitary intimate activity. That's really childish. I'm sorry. What happened is that Some Dumb American and Mara Jane are friends. They Skype, they talk occasionally. And Mara Jane was talking to Michael Rowlands. They were having a debate while at the same time he was direct messaging her, kind of trying to appease her and trying to do this duplicitous sort of plea for compassion and friendship while publicly they were debating over something. And he kept talking about kids and was trying to bond over the fact that Mara and Michael, both had children. This was a private conversation in direct messages, to my understanding, on Twitter between Mara Jane and Michael Rowlands. And Mara Jane confided in Some Dumb American about this. So they were talking about Michael Rowlands. I don't remember the exact context. I will do my best to dig up all of these different conversations and screenshot them for you. I apologize if I miss any, but I will do my best. Some Dumb American responded to whatever Mara Jane said about, I'm trying to decide, what to do about Michael or whether to block him, something like that. And then June jumped into the situation and accused them of implying or accusing Michael Rowlands of being a pedophile. It was very, very peculiar to me because, yeah, they were being nasty, but I don't think anybody who's watched any of SDA's videos or seen any of her social media posts is ignorant to the fact that she will just insult people. She's extremely, extremely blatant. She just says what she thinks, and that's one of the things that's so fantastic about her. She's ruthless. But it was blatantly obvious, and I didn't even know that much about either she or Mara Jane at that point, and it was still obvious to me. I'm not a genius here, that she was insulting him. She was not trying to, come out with any like Gawker type story, accusation, breaking news, Michael Rowlands has a thing for somebody's child. She was being facetious. She was being mean. And Shoe-on had somehow inferred that this meant that she was genuinely attempting to defame Michael Rowland's character by making him appear like a pedophile. And they got into this very peculiar argument where Mara Jane and Some Dumb American were trying to explain there's a conversation that occurred that you are not privy to here that we are referencing. But you're not allowed to do that, apparently, without receiving righteous, indignation from Shoe-On Head, which was very, very strange to me. So Some Dumb American and Mara Jane did a stream. Not that they should have had to, but because Shoe-On Head was so distraught and accused them of mental gymnastics when they tried to explain to her, we're referencing private conversations here that you were not a part of, hence your lack of understanding of what's going on here. They explained everything in this stream, which I will make sure to link either somewhere in my dark cluttered room here or in the description below. Presuming to know everyone's intentions and presuming to understand the whole context of every situation that you just happen to catch a glimpse of and jump into is unbelievably egotistical, especially accusing people of mental gymnastics because they're trying to tell you we had a private conversation and that's what we're referencing here. We're not just coming out of nowhere and calling this man a pedophile. It's so unbelievably egotistical and it's so hypocritical. I mean, she herself is not a skeptic, but she's within the skeptic community. She's kind of within the atheism community, although I think she identifies as agnostic. And the hypocrisy here was just unbelievable to me. I was not really interested in the product that she is providing as a content creator anymore. I unsubscribed from all of her stuff and unfollowed her because I didn't really agree with her anymore, and I wasn't really interested in having that kind of in the entertainment that is my YouTube subscriptions and my Twitter. Now, what moved me from sort of indifference to being furious happened very recently, and it concerns the whole Satiratician thing that just happened. I apologize for rehashing internet drama, although drama is acting, drama is theater. Melodrama is when somebody acts obnoxious and somebody inflates something beyond its actual importance to get attention. Drama is something else. Drama is something you study in school. Please stop being peasants, internet. What all happened here, I'm sure you all know about it, I'm sure you're sick of hearing about it, is that Shoe-On Head made a really, really bad parody where she did a video pretending to be a social justice warrior. But this was a really bad parody. If I didn't know who she was, I wouldn't have known this was a joke. This person who debunks some of the most bizarre, left field, nonsensical arguments, somebody who for a living does this and sees all of the sheer insanity of people who seem like satires of humanity, made a very, very kind of mundane, even-keel, soft-spoken video that was far less extreme than many, many of the videos that she herself has included in her debunking videos. And despite the fact that she was clearly trolling, it was a parody, a troll account, she was completely shocked and embarrassed and in disbelief when somebody was trolled. Is that not the intention of trolling, to do something disingenuous to get a rise out of someone else for your own amusement? Is that not exactly what trolling and parodying is? I'm not defending the Satiratician here any more than I was defending Bering when he used a trademarked cartoon character as his own avatar. But the way she responded is in no way excused by how nasty and childish he was to her, nor how baseless and kind of petty and arbitrary his arguments were. She claims that she dropped it on a stream that everyone else did where they happened to discuss this whole thing, and the Satiratician did come in, and she called it a hug box, like an echo chamber hug box type of thing, despite the fact that people kept stopping the Satiratician in this stream, which I will also link, saying, no, I don't necessarily condone what you did. Everybody made that very clear. There was no hug box, but Shoe-On Head, because people dared to criticize her, she had to hop in the chat and accuse everyone of all having the exact same viewpoint and not daring to entertain opposing views or any varying views whatsoever. So you have dropped this. She says she's done this, but she used her main channel that she only uses for her main videos, that she said for the longest time she's only going to upload 2 monthly to keep it fun for her. She uploaded twice in response to this one person who happened to fall for her troll video. That's not really dropping it. That seems like you're honestly genuinely very triggered. And she was upset that he said kill yourself and was using bullying tactics. There's no excuse for that. I don't condone that. But you don't get to call somebody out for something that you do all the time and just as well on Twitter. She's also criticized Bering as well because his hordes of fans will go and dislike somebody else's video when he does a response video disagreeing with someone. Yet she has made no effort to denounce her own fans. And in my opinion, you shouldn't have to denounce your fans. You can't control people. I mean, wasn't John Lennon killed by somebody who was a fan of his? You know, I didn't want to, was it Jodie Foster? One of her fans killed a man to try and prove his love to her. You cannot control your fans, and you are under no obligation to tell people how to act. You know, if you put yourself out on the internet, you are inviting criticism. But despite the fact that she was upset and thought that Bering could have done more to keep his fans from bullying or bombarding the people Bering responds to, she has not made any effort to ask her fans not to do things like that. And she also called it so embarrassing that he kept talking about her despite the fact that he was being bombarded with criticism from people who saw that he had fallen for this troll account. And the so embarrassing thing stems from two arguments that I've perceived from her. The one that I think was the intended argument is that you've used clips of my videos before. What do you mean you don't know who I am? And I think he said at one point he hasn't watched Shoe on Head and doesn't know who she is. And then when people said, clearly you have, he changed his phrasing to something different, something along the lines of, I don't regularly watch her content, but I've seen her before. You know that meme, the reaction video that you used in your Queer Kid Stuff video, Shoe? Do you know the identities and the personalities and political stances of all of the Black teenagers in that video? No? Then why do you think, unless you think you're so popular, that how could anybody possibly not know who I am? This is so embarrassing. I'm so embarrassed for you that I almost can't take it that you don't know who I am. And you didn't recognize me as the troll with my wig on. That seems obscenely egotistical and presumptuous to me and is not at all skeptical. And also some other things have happened where Armored Skeptic accused someone of being a skeptic clone despite the fact that he is the most blatant ripoff of Logic possible. But again, it seems as if his ego has grown with his subscriber count to where, despite the fact that he ripped his persona off of someone based on his standards of encroaching on somebody else's intellectual property, somebody who was on YouTube for a lot longer than him, he thinks that he is above reproach himself, and that everybody who dares to have a cartoon avatar is ripping off his style. Regardless, he's a joke. He's just an egotistical, insecure, bitter hypocrite, clearly. I mean, that's my opinion, of course. I wanted to talk about this for a while, and I'm ashamed that I waited until it was safe, and that a lot of other big-name, popular content creators have now criticized Shoe on Head and Armored Skeptic as well. I wish more people had done that, including myself, when Margaret dared to criticize the hypocrisy of Milo Yiannopoulos, and she was left completely alone in the cold. Nobody would defend her. Nobody would corroborate anything she said or even acknowledge her. We need to start standing up to people more. Nobody is above criticism. And yes, it may incur the wrath of their audience, but we have a duty as skeptics, as intellectuals, as people who are attempting to improve society through logic-based arguments and discourse, to criticize these people who are misrepresenting the movement. So that's really all I have to say. I mean, obviously I don't know the two of them personally. This is all a conclusion I've come to based on what has been put out by them on social media. Everything that they have been doing recently online, all of their actions, all of the hypocrisy has caused me to have no respect for either of them. I don't think what they've done is right, and frankly, it makes me furious. The way Skeptic spoke to Shannon specifically, and it's becoming clear to me now that it's not just Skeptic, while Shoe kind of defends him because she adores him. She is acting as entitled and as egotistical and as hypocritical as Skeptic does. And it's not right, and it deserves to be called out. And I don't care if their fans are very angry at me. I don't care. I'm going to speak out and do the right thing. I have the obligation to. We can't do what happened to Margaret. We can't be silent because we're scared of somebody's wrath, because somebody is popular. You can't be afraid to criticize people because of their clout within whatever circle it may be, political, social, anything. Because what happened to Margaret was wrong. And it's important to remember that nobody is beyond reproach. Everybody's ideas and actions should be criticized, and it's disrespectful not to be critical of people. And it's disrespectful to yourself not to be critical of everyone, no matter how much you adore them and look up to them and trust them. You owe it to these people, and these people owe it to you and to each other as titans of the SJW community. This video is atrociously long. I'm really sorry about that, but it's something that really needed to be said, and I'm sorry that I didn't say it sooner. I'm sorry that I waited till it was safe to oppose either of them publicly to do so. And I am immensely grateful for all of your support. I love you guys so, so much. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. And again, thank you so much for your respect and your patience to hear what I have to say. Thank you again so, so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.